World's biggest retailer by volume and profit, that would be Walmart, warned today that it may have to start raising prices later this month due to President Trump's tariff policy.
Trump told Walmart to, quote, eat the cost of rising tariffs so they can keep prices low for consumers.
A retail giant is closing stores. Walmart plans to shut down 269 stores.
It started with a single demand that sent shockwaves through the global economy. President Trump, standing firm on his tariff policies, told Walmart to, quote, eat the cost of rising tariffs so they can keep prices low for consumers. But the retail giant, already facing mounting pressures, could only absorb so much. Walmart, long celebrated as the world's largest retailer by volume and profit, announced plans to shutter 269 stores across the globe. The decision stunned economists and rattled households that had come to rely on Walmart's promise of everyday low prices. What began as a political maneuver was rapidly transforming into an economic earthquake, shaking the very foundation of America's retail landscape. The first tremor struck without warning, unleashing a chain reaction even the mightiest corporations could not brace for. Walmart, a name synonymous with affordability, stunned markets by quietly shifting key parts of its supply chain out of the United States. Instead of swallowing the additional costs brought on by tariffs, the company began sourcing goods elsewhere, triggering an inevitable rise in prices. Overnight, basic necessities, once the bedrock of the American shopping basket, became more expensive. Beef leapt from $9 to nearly $14 a pound. Lettuce surged by 30%. A box of cereal cost $2 more. Shoppers who once trusted Walmart to shield them from economic storms now faced aisles filled with price tags that betrayed that trust. Consumers, stunned by these sudden jumps, flooded stores in disbelief. Walmart attempted to calm the chaos, assuring customers that supplies remained steady. But reassurance rang hollow as inflation tightened its grip. Target, long seen as a fortress of stability, soon found itself dragged into the same spiral. If retail titans like Walmart and Target were crumbling under the weight of tariffs, what chance did smaller businesses have? Every household felt the ripple. From mom-and-pop stores to sprawling suburban malls, a creeping unease began to dominate the American shopping experience. The crisis refused to stay within U.S. borders. Tariffs unleashed a domino effect across global supply chains, disrupting shipments of rice, cooking oil, and canned goods. Southeast Asian markets, once flooded with steady streams of American products, suddenly faced barren shelves. In Nairobi and Manila, food prices soared, punishing families already struggling to make ends meet. The spark had been lit in the White House, but the flames now spread across oceans. President Trump's very public attack on Walmart, accusing the retailer of betraying American workers, only fueled the chaos. Forced to abandon its iconic, everyday, low prices slogan, Walmart found its once unbeatable business model eroding under relentless economic pressure. By the second quarter of 2025, Walmart's financial health had deteriorated beyond recognition. Losses ballooned to $25 billion, a staggering figure for a company once regarded as recession-proof. 10 major distribution centers were forced to shut down temporarily, putting more than 50,000 employees in limbo. The company's once celebrated just-in-time delivery system, long touted as a marvel of logistics, was now a liability, unable to keep pace with skyrocketing costs and unpredictable trade policies. Executives, breaking from their usual corporate caution, openly condemned the tariff strategy, calling it an economic weapon tearing apart supply chains. The shockwaves soon hit Wall Street. Investors watched nervously as Walmart's stock tumbled and prices across its stores surged. What began in grocery aisles now threatened to engulf electronics, fashion, and even the toy industry. Companies that had long depended on Walmart's massive purchasing power to keep costs low found their contracts collapsing one after another. Shipping rates spiraled out of control. Brokers scrambled to rewrite agreements, and the global trade system began slipping into a phase of disorder not seen in decades. Analysts warned that unless Washington acted swiftly, the U.S. risked entering the most severe retail crisis in modern history. Just as the crucial holiday shopping season approached, at the heart of the turmoil was a single policy decision. On April 2nd, 2025, in the White House Rose Garden, President Trump signed Executive Order 14,257, better known as the Liberation Day tariffs. Designed to pressure China, the measure instead detonated across the global marketplace. Nearly all imports into the United States were slapped with a baseline 10% tariff. By April 9th, retaliatory measures from more than 60 countries erupted, with China hit hardest as export duties on goods bound for the U.S. skyrocketed to an astonishing 145%. The intended squeeze on Beijing instead triggered a worldwide scramble to replace Chinese suppliers, leaving American consumers caught in the crossfire. The ripple effects were immediate and brutal. Shipping costs along the Shenzhen-Long Beach route tripled, while port delays became routine. At America's key ports, hundreds of containers were abandoned as importers balked at paying new duties. Many shipments spoiled, turning Walmart warehouses into graveyards of unsellable goods. Even attempts to pivot supply chains to Vietnam and India faltered as factories there quickly hit production limits. Backlogs stretched 6 months or more. A container that once cost $3,500 to move across the Pacific now cost $6,500, and forecasts predicted it could hit $8,500 before summer. The pressure cascaded far beyond Walmart's walls. Mid-sized businesses and small retailers faced tightening bank credit as lenders pulled back. Storage costs quadrupled as companies raced to stockpile goods before new tariffs took effect. Agriculture suffered a crushing blow. Refrigerated containers of beef and produce sat rotting at ports. Farmers, many still recovering from previous trade wars, watched hard-earned gains vanish overnight. Economists warned the average American household would shoulder an additional $1,000 a year in expenses, while Walmart's CFO went on national television to confirm what many feared. Rising prices were here to stay. By midsummer, the once unshakable pillars of U.S. retail were cracking. A leaked internal memo, ominously titled Project Sort, revealed Walmart's plan to permanently shut down 10 major distribution centers stretching from California to Florida. These hubs weren't just warehouses, they were economic lifelines for entire communities. Their closure threatened the jobs of 50,000 workers, while local economies braced for devastating ripple effects. Restaurants, trucking companies, and small businesses that had thrived on Walmart's constant flow of goods now faced an uncertain future. Behind the numbers lay a sobering truth. The backbone of America's retail system was breaking. And as Walmart prepared the public for what it called the greatest turning point in modern retail history, one question loomed large. How much more pressure could the economy bear before the entire system collapsed? As corporate boardrooms scrambled to contain the damage, it was the everyday worker who bore the heaviest burden. Inside Walmart's shuttered distribution centers, employees faced a cruel new reality: shortened shifts, vanishing overtime, and mounting uncertainty about their futures. Families that had long depended on steady paychecks suddenly found themselves juggling part-time gigs just to stay afloat. Labor unions issued urgent warnings, calling the tariffs not only an attack on foreign suppliers, but a direct assault on American livelihoods. Across the country, once busy break rooms turned silent, a grim reflection of a workforce caught in the crossfire of economic policy. By late summer, the crisis had grown into something far larger than a retail emergency. Economists cautioned that the turmoil rippling through Walmart's supply chains threatened to spill into housing, banking, and even energy markets. Politicians sparred over solutions, while ordinary Americans faced empty shelves and relentless price hikes. Some lawmakers called for sweeping reforms to stabilize trade, while others doubled down on tariffs, arguing that short-term pain was necessary to reclaim domestic manufacturing. Yet, the evidence told a darker story. Instead of renewal, the nation stood at a crossroads where every decision carried the risk of deeper shortages, higher costs, and a retail system on the brink of collapse.